there's something going on in our and on our planet that we should be aware of. Now, I was reading today from Ephesians chapter 5, verse number 14, and it simply says, awake, awake, O sleeper, and rise up from the dead, and Christ will shine upon you. Now, Paul was basically talking to the Ephesian people in Ephesians, says, listen, guys, you're kind of asleep at the wheel. You aren't really watching what is going on around. And there's an exhortation today, of course, of, watching and praying. So there's a lot of things that are happening around the world right now. And I mean, let's face it, all that can be shaken is being shaken. And so we who know the Lord, of course, have this responsibility, this duty, this obligation to be able to, interpret and illuminate what is going on, because of the fact that we have the instruction manual, we have, of course, the guidebook, the compass. And so let's talk about some of the things that are happening right now. Now, of course, you are well aware of the fact that my country of Canada is facing next week, according to the White House, a 25% tariff, as well as the country of Mexico. Now, that's going to obviously lead into a trade war, and it's going to be bad for both sides, of course, on the equation, because Canada supplies, for example, 80% of the potash that is needed in fertilizers in the United States. And when you think about that thing, I mean, Canada is huge in that respect. So that's going to hit the farmers pretty heavy. And then you're going to have on the other side of the equation the auto pact, which was negotiated way back in the 1960s. And one supplier put it this way, Stellantis said, listen, it's going to shut down the auto pack and the automobile industry within about a week, because that's about all they got for supplies. So you're going to have economic chaos everywhere. Now, it seems to be that those that are sitting in the White House have no idea about economics. They say they know something about economics, but you have to realize the fellow who's in charge is a failed businessman. He has failed in every single aspect of business. So now they've got him sitting in the White House, and of course he says, we're going to do it this way. And he's not very obviously a student of history. So the simple fact is there's going to be a lot of economic chaos going to begin to happen in the world. And then, of course, you have the war in Ukraine and the narrative that has been spun this last week. And you're going, does anybody in this world seem to have common sense? Well, you say to yourself, okay, how do we interpret all of this? Well, of course, we know the scripture was very clear when it said that all that can be shaken will be shaken. And then, of course, we have the vigil that's going on right now in, of course, Rome, because of the fact that the Pope is very close to expiring. And so there's this daily watch and daily prayer that's going on for him as well. And if that happens, then of course there's going to be a new spiritual leader for the 1.3 billion Catholic in the world. And that could fall into some interesting times, because this particular pope has been a little bit more on the liberal side. Now, is the next guy going to be a liberal? Is the next guy going to be like this one, a universalist? We don't know. So there's a lot of confusion. There's the spiritual realm as a large majority of the Christian world is Catholics, and then you have the economics that are coming on. We had yesterday Mr. Macron sitting there and basically correcting Mr. Trump in their so-called White House situation. Lots of things happening. So what do you do? Well, you need to recognize that everything is, even though it looks a little chaotic, a little wild, it's falling into place. Matthew chapter 24, the book of Revelation is falling into place. And what the world wants right now is they want stability. And there isn't seeming to be very much stability right now, because the simple fact is the narrative is being changed. I mean, United States, which was the the epitome, the foundation, of course, of stability is anything but stable right now. So, of course, the world is trying to deal with it. In fact, I read a headline yesterday that said simply this, that Europe, to offset the so-called threat of Russia, because Russia is still a threat. Come on now, let's be realistic about it. 83% of Americans say, listen, Russia is still a threat. So the Europeans are saying, listen, we've got to create an army of at least 300,000 men. Yesterday, of course, there was that the new leader of course, of Germany has says, listen, we're going to have to become the economic engine and the political engine of Europe. And so they are going to say, we're going to start doing what we need to do. So German nationalism is starting to rise up. Man, oh man, you look around and you're going, wow, this is absolutely chaotic. Well, of course. And where's that stability going to come? Well, those who follow the Bible know that it is going to be in the personage of a person that we call the Antichrist. And this guy's going to rise up, and he's going to promise stability, and he's going to promise, economics, the whole thing. And then he's going to have a spiritual component with him. Everything's falling into place. And so what do? Well, we need to be warning people about what's going on. We need to tell them this is, wake up, folks, wake up, because we're right there. Dr. David Jeremiah, who is a well-known preacher, says this, that every one of us are only one moment away from eternity. And that is actually quite real. Did you know that there's going to be somewhere between 150,000 and 200,000 people that are going to pass into eternity today? Depending on which, statistician you follow, it basically says that for every second that people live, there's 1 person to 1.3 people passing into eternity. And so there's about 200,000, 150 to 200,000 people who got up this morning and fully expected that they were going to make it through the day, and were unpleasantly or pleasantly surprised by the fact that they are in eternity. So the simple fact is, we need to be watching, and we need to maximize every moment that we have. It is absolutely essential that you do it. I love what it says in Lamentations 3:23. It says, the mercies of God are new every morning. Great is his faithfulness. Basically, what dear old Jeremiah was saying, listen, you got this whole day in front of it. Don't sit in front of the TV and watch Law and Order all day, or, sit there and play on your phone. I see people doing that all the time. I have members of my family that do it all the time. I came downstairs one time where my son was with his family, and there was his 2 daughters on the phone. His wife was on the phone. He was on the phone. I said, folks, you need to get off your phone a little bit. You see them happening in restaurants where you have a couple, they're not talking, but they're texting. And you're going, wait a minute, is that really a good use of time? Most likely not. Maybe it's time that we, gave someone a text, maybe an in-person visit, maybe a call on the telephone, maybe a little bit of FaceTime or Messenger. Catch up with people, find out what's going on, and illuminate them. I know there's a lot of folks out there that are really scared right now. You don't have to be scared. Everything's falling into place. But if you know the Lord, it is so beautiful, because everything's beginning to fall into place. So my exhortation is, do what Peter said, be sober and watch. That means be wide awake. Don't be walking around in a fog. And don't put your head in the sand, because it presents a wonderful target to the enemy. So the simple fact is, listen, he says, rise up, O sleeper, rise from the dead, and Christ will shine on you. He will illuminate for you what is going on in our world. And of course, if you have the guidebook, you have the instruction manual, you have the blueprint, you have the compass for life, then you know what's going on. But I really exhort you to maximize today. Make sure that you do what you think you need to do today, because the reality of the situation is we don't have any guarantee of tomorrow. Now, in about a month, I'm going to be jumping on my motorcycle. Now, as a motorcyclist, I know that every ride that I take, there's a possibility that I may not come back. You say, well, why do you ride? Because I love the bugs in my teeth. Reality of the situation is maximize today. Be a blessing today. You know, the Bible tells us in Psalm 37:23, the steps of a good person are ordered by the Lord. So make sure that your steps are ordered by Him today. I know that you have plans and purposes today, but recognize that there's unknown factors that may, you know, basically disrupt your day. So maximize every moment, maximize your relationships, and let people know what's going on. Don't frighten them, but just remind them that every one of us are only a moment away from eternity. And all the things that are happening right now have a purpose. So realize that today. Well, if you like what you've been hearing, of course, I encourage you to press the like button and subscribe to my YouTube channel. My name is Robert Dean Steele. Thanks for joining me today, and have yourself a great and godly day.